Good morning or evening, depending on which side of the pond you're on, and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Darren Woodhead used to play running back for the Patriots.
It's not us then, is it?
That would be, that would be a different D. Woodhead. That would be
running back.
Danny Woodhead.
I actually know that one. Yeah, that's one I did know. Well.
But Danny Woodhead is, of course, the former running back that played for the New England Patriots, San Diego Chargers, among other teams in American football. But today we're here to talk association football with the author of 50 Years of Accrington Stanley. Our good friend Darren Woodhead is back on the show. Welcome to the show, Darren.
Thanks, Phil. Nice to speak to you and Arran again.
Absolutely. And Arran Ayers, my brother from down under, is here with us this morning as well.
How's it going? We're doing it again on a Sunday. Good to talk to you again, Darren. And Phil, well, you know, we talk often.
Well, I'm sure at least it's good for you guys to talk to each other. I'm here, and you just got to put up with me. But we've got some exciting stuff to talk about, and any time that Darren joins us, it's usually a rather Accrington Stanley centric lineup. But we have plenty of other things to talk about today, and I think that even though this was kind of in the middle of the things that you said that you wanted to go over, I think the very first thing that we should talk about is something that is very dear and near to you, Darren, and that is the Tulsa Roughnecks demise, or the
rebrand. Tulsa Roughnecks are no more.
Yeah, the Tulsa Roughnecks are no more, and so now we have FC Tulsa, the incredibly creative name that they've come up with to replace the Roughnecks. And so now Darren, I know that you've been talking with folks on Twitter, and even though personally myself, and I know you, and I don't believe that Arran is necessarily a fan of the name change either.
No.
It is something that seems to be what the people of Tulsa wanted. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, well, that's my first cheesed off.
Cheesed off.
I've been on the podcast, and cheesed off.
Cheesed off.
Lancashire cheesed off. We've got a bit of cheese in Lancashire.
cheese up there.
Yeah. So when I saw it, I thought, well, basically, I saw a new name, new logo, etc. And I thought, why would you? Maybe it's something more with American sports rather than. I mean, we love our history over here and names, and they mean a lot to us. I think there's been a couple of occasions where teams have tried to do things, changing names. I remember Hull City, probably 5 years ago. The chairman mentioned he wanted to call them Hull Tigers.
That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah, that went on for around 5 years with fans protesting, and it never got through. So maybe, I don't know what you guys think. Maybe it's probably not seen as too much of an issue when teams change a name or a location, and people are a little bit more accepting of it.
Well, I mean, here with the Phoenix Rising, for example, they changed names several times. It started off as the Phoenix Wolves, and then became Arizona United, and eventually settled on the Phoenix Rising. The other thing I know is that typically when teams that have been in the USL Championship, which is the division that Phoenix Rising are in, and then that city gets awarded an MLS franchise, that there's usually a rebranding or renaming involved. But these are all teams that have, 5-10 years of history, so that's not that big of a deal. with the Tulsa Roughnecks, even though this incarnation of the Roughnecks is only about 6 seasons old, that's something that has history dating all the way back to the 70s with the old NASL. But one part of my understanding is, I guess, the community was kind of unhappy that they used the Roughnecks name, but they didn't really do anything to tie back to the 70s history, and that the community kind of said, you're a completely separate club. We want you separate from that history, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a little bit like, I listened to your last podcast and you were talking about Arsenal having a few name changes, and Manchester United were called Newton Heath. So I suppose when they were fledgling clubs, they were changing names. And I suppose that makes a difference. And say, if I bought, whoever, Plymouth Argyle tomorrow and waltzed in and said, right, I want to call you FC Plymouth, I'd probably like hung in the street.
That's one of the right games.
I think you're quite right there, Darren, though. There's a lot to do with management changes over here. It's a bit like hanging up the under new management sign out the front of the club. You have to go through a rebrand every time that happens.
Anyway, for what it's worth, I'm disappointed. I quite like the old badge and the name. So,
Me too, mate.
Did you see the new badge for Tulsa's FC?
Yeah.
It was like something for a care home or something.
Oh man, I reckon it was like it was like the Swallow was getting some bucks. You know what I mean? It was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like their color patina green.
Oh,
how bland. There you go.
That before in my life, and I'm a graphic designer. What a bunch of nonsense that is. I'm with you, Darren. I liked the Tulsa Roughnecks brand, even though I didn't particularly like the team. This is just bland and insipid. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. It doesn't cry out, "Oh, look, there's a team that like you did. There's a team that I should follow."
No. I need a new team now, I think.
Oh no!
I'm on the lookout before the season starts. I'm going to pick another one now.
Well, yes, we've already discussed you're not going for Phoenix, so all right, we'll keep an eye
on. No, it won't be interesting enough if I follow you guys.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand you're not really wanting to go for Phoenix. It kind of the same reason of how I was telling you that back in the 90s, I never wanted to be one of those people that went for Manchester United. I mean, when a team is as massive as Phoenix Rising,
I do watch out for Phoenix's results. I'm just, I like a bit of banter with you guys, to be quite honest.
Fair enough. Yeah. Joe, hey, just before we go on to the next one, I do have to give a shout out to my mate, Loser Josh. I caught up with him a couple of weekends ago, and he has decided to cash in his Everton card, and he's gone and transferred across to the red side of town. And you know what? The reason for him wanting to be an Everton fan was that he didn't want to be a bandwagon fan. So well done, Loser.
Yeah, I was telling Darren a couple of weeks ago that that was kind of one of the reasons I got into Arsenal, is because in the 90s here, it was, Man United was like the only team, and I was kind of like, well, who else is there? And they're like, well, Man United hates Arsenal. I said, give me them. But yeah, I mean, so Darren, so you're not going to stick with Tulsa through the rebrand, that it sounds like.
No, they're gone.
Okay.
They're gone. They're history.
Well, speaking of history, there's obviously no one who is more versed in the history of our favorite team, Accrington Stanley.
Accrington Stanley? Who are they? Exactly.
Than yourself, as proven by your book. And I know that the last time I talked to you said you were running pretty low on books. Is that still the case, that you have a few left, or have you sold out at this point?
Yeah, well, I only have 500 printed, and we're into the last box now, which is probably around 30 or 40 left. So there won't be any more, another print run. So limited edition, there's probably 30, 40 left, and move on to the next project.
That's very impressive, I have to say.
Yeah, especially in in this day and age where books are, it seem to play a second fiddle to online literature these days. So yeah, I'm very happy that they were all sold.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Now, we had talked a couple times about turning your book into an e-book, so I think that might be something that we want to try and do here after you run out of the physical copies. Is maybe
that'd be nice, just to give it a try. It's not something I've ever really an avenue I've gone down before, but I think that'd be good. Yeah,
very cool.
We'll look forward to that, and then next Saturday on the 21st, we have Accrington Stanley will be playing a very important match with Doncaster.
Yes.
Right now, Accrington sits 17th at the table on 22 points. However, there is a number of teams just 2 points ahead of them, one of those being Doncaster. So with a win next Saturday, Accrington has a chance to really put itself with some separation between the relegation line and themselves, and have been in an excellent run of form lately.
Yeah.
4-1 yesterday over Pompey. Of course, had the 7-1 win over Bolton with a 1-1 draw with Tranmere in between those. Darren, tell us a bit about the form and some of these massive clubs that we've been knocking off.
It's unbelievable, really, isn't it?
They haven't been good since at least the Roman times.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible the type of teams who are coming and were beating. I mean, like you said, this season we had Pompey, Bolton, and Ipswich all been beaten before Christmas. It's incredible. I mean, sometimes you get carried away with the names actually, and just realise they are League One teams. When you hear you're playing Portsmouth, and it says Portsmouth up there on the billboard, but when you're half expecting to see Peter Crouch run out and Paul Merson and all these players, and they're just a League One team, so you shouldn't be too daunted. But nevertheless, it's the unbelievable results given the size of the clubs that are coming and the results we're getting. Yesterday was probably the best of all of them, really, for how we played. I mean, I know we scored 7 against Bolton, but they went down to 10 men, and
and they're not quite on the level of Pompey either.
No, they were a decent team. They were on top for parts of the first half. I thought they were quite strong, but once we got the second half, they come out and played really well. I don't know what you thought, Phil, when you saw the game, didn't you? And they looked excellent.
Yeah, it was really a fantastic match where it could have been more than 4-1. I think that we talked a little bit at halftime that there was definitely some wasted opportunities. There were a couple of calls where penalties could have been called in Stanley's favor and weren't. Mm-hmm. The thing that I noticed that really stuck out to me is that Stanley actually could have won the game with me as goalkeeper yesterday because they scored 4 goals but only had 3 allowed on target. So even if they let all 3, they would have won anyway. So that's how good they've been on defense. But next Saturday, they're going to be traveling to Doncaster. Doncaster is coming off of a 2-1 loss at AFC Wimbledon yesterday. So this is a team that lost to one of the worst clubs in the league yesterday. So do you think that Donny's going to find themselves a little bit out of their element? Or do you think that this is going to be a tough match for Stanley? What are you looking at, and what do you guys expect to see next Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I work with the Doncaster fan, and he's been telling me for quite a few weeks that they haven't been playing well at all. So it's one of those. It's a good time to play them, I suppose. It's ideal for us. The way our strikers, especially, I mean, they're growing in confidence. The 2 guys up front,
absolutely, aren't they?
Bishop and Charles.
Yeah.
It's quite. It represents really what happens most years at Accrington. We always seem to get better in the second half of the season. And I think it's not just I think there's reasons behind that as well. I mean, normally we're setting off the season with a brand new team, so it's going to take time to gel. And also the second reason I always thought is we've got the type of players who are improving on their career. They're young. They're not players coming at the back end of their career. They're improving. And the two guys we've got up front, I mean, Bishop, I think he played a handful of games in the Football League early in his career at Notts County, but he's been a non-league player. Charles has been a non-league player. Then they're thrust straight into League One, right? Any League Two experience, you know. And there's times when it's showed, you know. But now they're blossoming. You know, they're scoring goals. They look full of confidence. They're doing great. Those two guys.
Really, that's really the word that I took out of what you were saying, and it's really Aaron. You'll remember this. Remember with the Phoenix Rising for the first 8 games of the season or so, that they just looked out of sorts and then they put it all together. I think that Stanley has really kind of reached that. I feel like that Bolton game, I mean, that gave them so much confidence, and they've just really carried that through. And I think that like Darren said, that the roster really is starting to gel. Now, one thing, I made a little bit of a joke earlier about how the goalkeeper didn't get much action yesterday, but we did see a change in goal yesterday where we saw a new keeper out there. Do you think that this is going to be a long-term change, or do you think this was just, Dibby getting a night off?
I may think it's going to carry on and continue because, well, for one reason, he's on loan, isn't he? The replacement who came in, Bursick. I suppose if he's not playing games, his parent team are going to come and take him back.
Right.
I suppose he needs even if he plays the next 5 games over Christmas period, it's unlikely then that the parent team are going to come and take him back to them. So I think there may be more than just form involved with this. It could be a little bit political.
A little bit of politics there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. Poor old Jimmy, as you called him, Phil. He wasn't awful in goals. Well, I mean, he had his moments, but
he has his moments. But I don't think it's, actually, I think there's a little bit more to it than just a total lack of form. I don't think he's been doing too badly.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers have been pretty good, and he's made some big saves and saved some points. But I think sometimes maybe you just need a bit of a shake-up. Similar to with the Phoenix Rising, I don't think that Carl Wasinski was necessarily playing poorly, but when they put in Zach Lubin, the club really just kind of took off there. And, I guess it's one of those things where once you get on a run of form, it's tempting to not want to change things.
The parallels to the Phoenix Rising season are quite marked at this point. I remember having a chat to when we were talking to Tony Robinson, and we were saying that it just looked like a matter of weeks before Aki would sort of get their shit together, basically, and start hitting their straps, and that's what happened. And we were drawing parallels to the Phoenix Rising season, where defensively weren't too good, attack was kind of all over the place. We changed our keeper out, switched out the back line, and off we went. In fact, there was even like a 6-goal victory in there as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, think about this. Right now, Stanley is at a -1 goal difference. 3 matches ago, they were at -10. So they've swung goal difference by 9 goals in 3 games.
Right.
Well, one thing I did notice about Joe Bursick yesterday is he was very good with his kicking. It doesn't seem as, I don't know what his stats are, but he didn't seem as tall as Dimmy is, but he was definitely good with the kicking. He was finding people in the other half of the pitch. Yeah.
That happens.
Not just kicking aimlessly. He was finding players. Yeah.
Don't tell Arsenal.
And he's England under-20s goalkeeper as well. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's a good prospect. He's he's on loan from Stoke. I think they need a keeper, don't they?
No, they're fine.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that I wanted to ask you about, Darren, and I know that you did mention that you had a chance to listen to our last episode. And we did a spot at the end where we were talking about some unsung players, and I had mentioned Jordan Clark as being a guy that maybe doesn't get the headlines, but I think is an extremely important player to Stanley. Who's another guy on the club besides Clark that maybe isn't one of the headliners that you think is an engine that drives this team?
Right, you put me on the spot now, Phil. I think,
Sorry.
yeah, obviously you've got Mark Hughes, who's always steady and plays like that. Clark, yeah, he's out of contract as well at the end of the season, so that could be a blow if we do lose him. Regarding players who are reliable, I think that's been a big difference this season as well. We do have a decent squad. So we've lost players, the likes of Callum Johnson missed a couple of games, and Harvey Rogers came in, did really well. He's gone back out, and Callum's gone back in. But that's something we didn't have historically. We're messing around, not messing around, but changing goalkeepers. But they're both decent, so it's not to detriment of the team. So I think that's the overall feeling I've got is there's a lot of reliable players. Say on the bench, we've got Phil Edwards, who didn't even make the bench yesterday, and he's a very decent, capable footballer who can play in a number of positions. So
he's
that's
a real
there's a lot of
too.
there's a lot of unsung heroes really around the club who are doing a good job and not creating too much trouble if they're not in the team or the squad. So that's it's really encouraging, is that?
What about the guy who really had the play of the game, in my opinion, which was the assist that set up that first goal, Jerome Apaku? Have you heard if we're going to get to keep him, or is Fulham going to take him back in January?
I think Andy Holt said we'd like to keep him forever, didn't he, on Twitter?
Yeah.
He's something special, this guy. He really is. He's going to go a long way. He definitely, I think he'll play in the Premier League, no problem. At some point in his career, he's just got everything.
I just bought his signed shirt, so I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean when he starts, gets on a run. I think, like I said, he confuses players. They just don't expect him to be so good with his feet.
Right, because he's quite a tall, lanky, sort of gangly type of fella, isn't he?
He must be 6'6" at least, right, and he's no weight on him. He's very slim and slender, but he's quick, he's strong, he can beat people. He's excellent.
He held off two players before that goal, and they looked all ends up. I think one of them ended up on his butt. The other one ended up with a big "don't argue" to the face. They weren't getting close to him. Yeah.
Oh, he takes no prisoners as well. Yeah, he's got that edge to his game, which is you need it, I suppose, to make it at the top level. Right. He's got the aggression and he's got everything. He's one of the best players we've ever had on loan, I've got to say.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about him, and that's exactly where you were bringing up there, Darren, is in baseball over here, they have what they call a five-tool player. And in baseball, a five-tool player is considered a guy who can hit for average, hit for power, run with speed, good in the field, and good throwing arm. Those are the five tools that you look for in baseball. Apaku, he is a five-tool soccer player, if you will, in the sense that he can do anything. He can defend. He has that edge to his game, like you said. He can attack. He had, like I said, he had a fantastic assist yesterday. He had a shot that hit the post. He hasn't scored yet, but he will any match now. I mean, he has at least one near miss every game. He has that size to play the set pieces in the box. The other thing is he's fantastic at throw-ins because his height, and his long arms. He has really long arms too. He kind of reminds me of Hakeem Olajuwon, the old NBA basketball center in a way. Now, of course, Olajuwon was much larger, about 6'9". 270. He was a big dude, but Olajuwon was a guy that grew up as a soccer player and actually didn't change over to basketball until he became about 16 because he just got too tall for soccer. But when he played in the NBA, he just had footwork that you would never expect from a 6'9" guy because of that soccer background. And that's the thing with Upaku is that at 6'6", he has very good foot control, and he's probably the fastest guy on the team. I mean, I've seen him chase guys down that were had a 10-yard lead on him.
All-round Superman, isn't he?
He's just a fantastic player and a joy to watch play, and I really hope that we get to keep him.
Yeah, me too. So you'll be watching the next game. Is it the next meet of the North American Supporters Club?
Yeah, it is. Arran, why don't you talk a little bit about the first meetup and how that went?
Yeah, you know what? It was a load of fun. It was a real early start for us to be in a pub. It was 8 o'clock over here. I think it was kickoff, so we're there beforehand. That's all right. I don't mind a breakfast beer myself.
A true Aussie.
Very true, very true. But it was good fun. We had it all rigged up, and we had it on one of the TV screens in the pub, and they also, probably this is going off on a tangent, which I want to do from time to time. But 8 o'clock in the morning, it was all football in that little dive bar, and I was a bit surprised by that. But we had a good turnout. I think we had about a dozen people there, which was good considering this is the first time out for an Accrington Stanley meetup. It was thoroughly enjoyable, more so made by the scoreline there as well, which ended up being 7-1 to a 10-man Bolton, which we've spoken about. But it was great, good camaraderie there. I think people just generally just enjoyed themselves, Off the back of that, I decided to up my Aki game, and I bought myself a shirt. So
excellent.
I'll be there for the next one next week with my Aki shirt.
Good stuff. He got quite a lot of exposure, didn't he, on the official website and social media. Yeah,
real happy with that.
It was fantastic, and I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody at the club and with the supporters club, especially Peter Latham. I will tell you that Peter Latham, he is without question the top supporters club president in all of Europe. I don't care any other club. Peter Latham, you are the man. I also want to give a shout out to Luke Pearson, who is the Accrington media director. He helped us out with getting the announcers to give us a shout out on the broadcast.
That's awesome.
Also, for playing our favorite band, The Glides, in the stadium, and we're going to hopefully get the Glides, and actually this is a good opportunity where we're going to interrupt the show right now, and Paul Perrin, who is the bass player who plays that funky bass line that you hear at the beginning of every show for the Glides, he has actually written an Accrington Stanley fight song, and we're going to hear that right now.
Slicing through the midfielders, but pass to the striker, yeah. It's a banger to the net. On Stanley, on Stanley, on Stanley, on
that was Paul Perrin with On Stanley On, his new fight song that we're getting going here for the North American Supporters Club. And of course, you can hear his solo work is out under St. Pop or St. Paul of Phoenix. Or, of course, you can hear him at the Glides. If you just look up the Glides on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you consume music, we're hoping that we'll be getting the Glides playing out in the Wham Stadium a few more times here before the end of the season.
You know what I love about that song, right, is, first listen, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. I get it, all right. And then 5 minutes later, it's in your head. You can't get it out of your head. I even said that to Paul when I first heard it. I know, Darren, you haven't heard it just yet, but when I first heard it, I said to Paul, mate, I can't get this song out of my head.
Maybe it's one they'll play every week.
There you go. He would love that. He would love that.
Yeah, it's a great little jam, and I know that he's actually going to be in the studio on Tuesday. And said he's going to be putting some updated vocals. So it's still a work in progress. So what you're hearing there isn't the finished product, but the entire Glides band has really gotten on board with the club. And like I said, there, of course, the ones that you hear playing at the beginning and end of all of our shows. But several members of the Glides are actually now official Supporters Club members, and both Mark Harrison, the guitar player, and Travis Kenny, the lead singer, who you've heard on this show before, were at that first watch party. So there's an official band of Accrington Stanley over here in North America as well with the Glides.
Great stuff. Maybe we can get the players coming out to one of the songs one game, eh?
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that Mark is over in the UK right now until the beginning of January, so maybe we'll get him over to the Wham this time.
Darren, I know you've mentioned this a couple of times across the pitch and on our little chats, but it's to do with the behaviour of the fans in the UK and how that compares to the US. And that's an interesting question, that one. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the topic first came up. Well, we had a bad experience with Bolton fans a few weeks ago. Obviously, they weren't best pleased about the result, but it was bigger than that. I sensed the atmosphere walking to the ground that I've probably never experienced before at our ground. You could just feel it, that there was just, it was brewing. And they came in large numbers. Half of the crowd was Bolton supporters, but that hasn't been a problem before. I mean, we've had Sunderland and Barnsley who've outnumbered us, due to the size of the club. It was just something, you could just feel it. They didn't disappoint. They were ripping advertisement hoardings up. There were people running on the pitch who were getting arrested. There were even two guys sat near me who had been in hospitality who got arrested. They come for a meal, all with suited and booted, and ended up in the back of a police van. So it was a crazy day, really.
That's unreal.
Why do that? Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to just speak to you guys about what, do you have ever experienced things like that in American sports? Are there any kind of trouble at games? It's just not something I ever hear of at any kind of sport in the US, really. Does it happen?
Yeah. I'd like to answer that in terms of soccer or football over here. Generally, the crowds are fairly benign, I have to say. Like, it's a very family-friendly atmosphere, probably to a point, I'm going to say. That, there's probably lacking a little bit of passion from the fans. I hate to talk about it in those terms, but, I mean, there's passion and there's idiots. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see very, very few fools in the game here. Everyone's really quite, respected, and they sort of show each other. The crowds aren't segregated. Is probably the biggest point there. You can be sitting next to your, Seattle Sounders fan, for example, and they wouldn't. I mean, there's going to be friendly jibes and all, but there's not going to be fists thrown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Might have
a bit like when you're at the cricket. So you can get, you sat around, that happens when you go to the cricket. There's a lot of banter and that.
Oh, yeah.
You get crowds all mixed together and things.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and well, I don't know if you've been to the cricket in Australia, but when they had those hills,
yeah,
beer all day, man, and get rowdy in there.
Yeah, it gets more rowdy as the day goes on, doesn't it?
Exactly. But yeah, you're right. It's all fairly benign. Was probably the wrong word to use. I think it's just
bit silly. Yeah.
Well, I would say that in the United States, that in American football is the one sport where you do see some fights in the stand.
Yeah, I've been to a few games, and I can tell you at every one of the games I've been to, there's been a bit of a dust up in the stands. But I've never felt for my life like I did the time when I was at Upton Park in the away end, because my English mate thought it would have been really smart to bring an Aussie to the away end when Australia was playing England. And we win. I thought it was a bit of a lark myself. I never expected us to win, but I quickly put away my Australian flag and took off my Australian jersey and shut the hell up, because honestly, I could see the daggers in the back of my head now.
Yeah, I suppose there's so many teams around us here as well. It doesn't take much effort to get to a game, so it's not like, say, Sunderland have all come on a coach for a few hours. We're only playing when we play Bolton or Blackpool or somebody. 30 minutes on a train, and they're all here.
We don't have teams that are 1 mile apart here. I mean, I think that's a big.
Yeah,
like I was mentioning to you that sometimes there's hundreds of miles between the next team, and I think that's something that I often talk to Arran about, where Arran lived in London and actually experienced the Arsenal Spurs rivalry firsthand, and I always say I kind of don't feel that. I actually hate United more than the Spurs, just because when I started, as an American, I haven't experienced that being a mile apart and running into those Tottenham fans. I mean, here in Phoenix, I never even see a Tottenham fan. But
it's United States,
I mean, we hate LA, but we still got to drive 6 hours just to kick their ass. I mean, one thing I did actually want to come back and ask you about, Darren, that you were talking about earlier about the different places folks sit at the Wham Stadium, and one thing that I noticed when I watch the games is it seems that nobody sits in like the front rows and everybody sits kind of higher up. Is that just to stay out of the rain, or is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I think the newsstand especially, I think it does blow in a little bit when it rains, so people tend to huddle to the back. Yeah, I think that's just the main reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's very, very odd seeing the front 10 rows empty and then the next 10 rows completely full. And you usually see, at least in American stadiums, would be the opposite.
Right. Yeah, they want to get close to the action. Maybe on a nicer day when we don't have too many nice days here, so everybody's like freezing cold, huddled at the back together.
I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to the whole Berry situation when that club folded earlier this year. We remarked on the show that Andy Holt said, any Berry fans with the tickets can come along and see an Aki game. Did you experience any Berry fans coming along
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen people. I've seen a few people at games with the shirts on. The shirts and tracksuits and bits of clothing with Berry badges on. Yeah, so I wouldn't say dozens, but I've seen odd people around. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you guys probably didn't meet that often. I guess you're sort of close rivals in terms of distance, but I guess sort of that shows a bit of UK fan camaraderie there, UK supporter camaraderie as opposed to fan, which we've spoken about before.
Yeah.
Like, I find that interesting because, you probably hated each other, but now you don't.
I think Accrington's different than most teams around here. The fact that we've come so far from the depths of non-league right up to the Football League. We've played so many teams and not been rivals for long periods, if you will. I mean, Blackburn and Burnley are either side of us, and they absolutely despise each other. Right? That is toxic. That atmosphere in those games. And that happens a lot. Blackpool and Preston can't stand each other, but we've just tended to. Well, we've gone through so many divisions. We don't tend to have that rivalry with anyone, really. I'd say we've got a few teams who we've played who there's been some trouble with, Luton and Stevenage over the past few years, but they're near London, a couple of 100 miles away.
Sorry.
Right, yeah. Maybe Bolton now. I think.
Maybe Bolton now.
Yeah, they're not big fans of you now, are they?
Yeah, we won't be playing them very long though because they're going down anyway.
They totally are.
Yeah, they'll be in National League North with where they're going. So, I noticed Stevenage, they're a team who Stanley fans despise. They stopped us going up once. They knocked us out of the playoffs, and there's a lot of bad feeling with them. They've just appointed a new manager today, Graham Wesley, for I think the third time, and he is a piece of work. If you ever get a chance to go and see a game with Stevenage playing, or watch some interviews with him, he's one of the most hated people in football.
Okay, all right.
Graham Wesley.
Graham Wesley, remember that name?
Right. Yeah, check him out.
How do you think the rest of the season's going to go for Stanley there, Darren? I mean, Stanley are in a really good run of form right now. I think they're unbeaten in 4 in all competitions. Good game coming up against Doncaster there. How do you think the rest of the game's going to go over the Christmas period and for the rest of the season? I know we do this to you every year, mate, but
I think we should finish in the top half. I'm quite confident we will. I think we need to start beating teams who are top half teams. We haven't really been doing that. I know we've had good results against the big clubs as we see them, but they're not always the say Bolton. You expect the big club, but they're not a good team. So we just need to start beating more of the sides like Portsmouth and above, maybe Doncaster and a few others. If we can get results against those teams, I think we'll start moving up the table, hopefully.
Yeah.
I've kind of felt the opposite. I've kind of felt that when Stanley plays some of the better teams, they've been stepping their game up. But there's been a lot of games against teams that I feel like they should have beaten or should have taken 3 points from, like Tranmere, for instance. I know that was a road game, but that should be a 3-point. And I know that we had a loss against Gillingham, Rochdale. I feel like those are teams that they should have beaten. But overall, I think that the last 4 weeks, like you mentioned, Arran, that they've really turned the corner. And like you said, Darren, I think that they're definitely a top half team if they keep playing the way that they are right now.
Yeah, I'm quietly confident. I think we'll be fine. We've got a decent squad. Maybe 1 or 2 will be coming and going in January, but no major changes needed. Because I don't think if somebody came in, they'd be struggling to get in the team, I think, unless they were absolutely top drawer, because we've got other decent players who can't get a game at the moment. So, yeah, I'm optimistic. I think we'll do okay.
It's interesting, though. I mean, they should be beating those teams in and around that sort of area that they're in on the table there. But you've also knocked off some, or I should say we these days, shouldn't we? We've also knocked off some pretty big teams this year. Ipswich, Portsmouth, and Bolton, as you mentioned before. I mean, their results not to be sneezed at. I think that's showing the quality of a club that's on the up. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I think, top half of the table is definitely within sight.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I'm confident that we'll be in League One next year, if nothing else. I think that's with the number of points that are being accumulated and just the run of form in general, and seeing that the players are coming together. But yeah, like you said, Darren, I mean, every position has some depth. I think getting some of the forwards back from injuries has made a difference. I mean, I know McConville has taken an injury, so that's something that's gonna, right when he was starting to get firing on all cylinders too. That was real unfortunate. But I think the midfield, with Clark and Finley and Pritchard, looks real strong. And Joe Pritchard, he's a guy that we hadn't really talked about, but he is a really talented distributor and a true number 10.
Yeah, I mean, he came in for McConville yesterday, and he picked up the Man of the Match award at the game. So that just emphasises what I was saying about the squad and the depth and the way things are going on that front, yeah.
Another guy that deserves some mention that we haven't said his name today is Ross Sykes. I mean, he's another staple on defense. He's another tall guy. I mean, with him and Apaku, it really gives Stanley a unique amount of height on the back line.
Yeah, he's another guy who could definitely go on to play at a higher level, I think, once he gets more games under his belt, and he's got all the attributes. He's tall, he's decent on the ball. I mean, he's not as skillful as Apaku, but he's a very, a competent performer with the ball. To say he's another one who's 6'5" or 6.
Yeah,
he's a decent player.
He's more defensive oriented, where Apaku's always looking to move the ball forward.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Sykes, he's really your traditional center half that he's just your guy that's in the middle, kind of anchoring that middle of the defense, making sure that nobody gets the ball in deep behind him. The goalkeeper's best friend, if you will.
Yeah, he's a very steady performer. Like I said previously, though, he's very good on the ball as well for a tall guy. Some of these big lower league defenders, they're just stoppers, they're just hatchet men. But he's very good on the ball.
Who do you think, we've spoken about this on the last edition of Across the Pitch, but who do you think will go up from League One? I think we've discussed that the Accrington probably won't go up this year, but, in years to come. And who do you think will get relegated? Who, apart from Bolton, who is going to get shunted down?
Right, well, I think Southend will go as well as Bolton. I can't see Southend coming with much of a run. And then it's all down to that last spot, isn't it? Yeah. It would have been 2, but for Bury going, but there's only 1 spot, and I'll be quite honest, I haven't got a clue for that last one. There's around 10 clubs, including us, who could probably fall into that category. I still think Ipswich will get promoted, personally.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Wickham? Are they going to maintain that run of form they're on?
Well, I don't think they will. I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll fall away, but I may be wrong. I hope they do, to be honest. I'd like to see them go up. I quite like Wickham, and I like the manager and the way they go about things. And it's a good club to visit as well when you go. It's pretty similar to Accrington. They look after the away fans. You've got a fan zone, and you have a good few beers, and it's a good place to visit for a game, yeah.
Right on. I think that's pretty much where we went to, wasn't it, Phil? On the last episode, we were like, Ipswich to go through, Wickham probably drop off, it'll be in the running. I don't know who I said after that. I think maybe I went for...
Well, Ipswich had a loss yesterday, and Wickham now has a 7-point spread, which is really getting pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the relegation teams, I think that obviously Bolton and Southend are probably the 2 that are going down for sure. For that last spot, there's 3 teams. Besides the 2 that I just mentioned, there are 3 teams that currently have a double-digit negative goal difference. Rochdale is a negative 11, Tranmere's a negative 12, MK Dons is a negative 13. I'm going to say it's going to come out of those 3 teams. I think that AFC Wimbledon, they're starting to get their form together. I think you'll see them come up. Stanley, they're pulling away. And I just think that it's going to be out of those three that have the double-digit negative right now. Rochdale, Tranmere, MK Dons. Put your money on those.
I'm going to call it because I'm the most hated man in the world. Tranmere is going down.
The most hated man in Birkenhead. Well, I think that we've gone over most of what we had on the list today. What else did you guys have that you wanted to talk on? Or
I do have one thing for you, Darren, before you go.
Yep.
So I'm a fan on Facebook of this group. It's called Non-League Grounds of England and Scotland, and it's fascinating look into basically the life at the grassroots of football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you went to one recently, didn't you? You went to, and forgive me if I'm going to butcher this, Padiham.
No, that's Padiham. Yep.
Okay. Oh, got it. Cool.
Yeah. I had a free Saturday afternoon a few weeks ago, so I went down to visit Padiham. It's I do like watching non-league football occasionally. Lower league football, lower non-league football, I should say. There's only a couple of hundred people watching. Some of the football, it's fierce, I tell you. There was one guy. He did a 2-footed tackle on the halfway line and went in someone about knee height. It would have been a double red card in the Premier League, I think. He just got a yellow. So it's cut and thrust, but no, it's real community clubs, a couple of hundred people watching. Social side of it's great. The little bar, and I enjoyed it. I'm going to try and go to a few more and do a few more reports for across the pitch before the season's over. Visit a few more of these little grounds, and they were keen. They were really thrilled that we'd done the little piece on them and put it on Twitter and Facebook. He contacted me, the guy who does the commercial side, and he was really happy about it.
That's fantastic. I love
fantastic. I really like that too, and I think that that's something that we're really going to do more of here going forward. Is more of a non-league profiles and things like that, because everybody knows about the Premier League teams and even the Championship and League One teams, but there's over 700 teams in England, and only 92 of them are in the league. So that's 600 clubs out there that are every one of them has a story and a history, except Forest Green and MK Dons.
Oh, you're a bitch, Phil.
So one thing that struck me when I went as well that I probably forgot about because we've moved up the leagues at Accrington is the amount of volunteers that were there, on the turnstiles and making the coffee and things like that. And they're all turning up every week. The groundsmen cutting the grass, they're all doing it for free. Right. It's great to see, how much time and effort they all put into it, and to get a match on a Saturday afternoon. It's fantastic.
It's for the love of the game, I love it as well, because this is how I grew up watching football as well. And most people, to be fair, you stand on the sidelines and there are no stands. You're literally standing there as howling winds. But there you are, supporting a club. That's it. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
That actually is something excellent that I'd like to ask you, Darren, that you would probably know about. Who are some people around the grounds in the club at Stanley that maybe haven't gotten a mention on the show before that deserve a mention, or folks that have been there and seen the club through that we haven't talked about, or there's got to be a handful of people that that are worth a mention there.
Especially. Yeah, there's a lot, but one the groundsman, he's the guy with his nickname is Buzzer Cook.
Oh yes,
and that's actually Josh Cook's father. So
he's
the groundsman. He cuts the grass. He looks after the ground all week. And he's a great guy. He's a character. He's been with the club quite a few years, and especially when, you know, we were in a bit of a bad way and we had no money, etc. So you can imagine his working conditions and the equipment he had. So,
Right.
and Andy Holt coming in and laying us a new pitch and buying new equipment, it's made his life a little bit easier, I should imagine. He's a character around the ground.
Let's get him on the show. You think he'd be interested?
Yeah, he might do.
That would be a great. That would be a great show, because there's actually a million questions I have about how all the carrying of the pitch goes. So yeah, mention that we'd like to have him on the show, because I think that would be something pretty unique that I don't know if we have many podcasts out there where folks have talked to the groundskeeper. So let's make that a priority.
Phil, I love your enthusiasm there, mate, but I think you just missed out on a little bit of English nuance in that, in Darren's response there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but that, yeah, he might do was pretty much a flat no.
No, he may do. No, he might do.
Okay.
I've no idea. I've no idea if he fancies coming on a podcast.
Well, we'd like to have him on, so I'll keep putting it out there until.
Well, you'll find him on the Accrington Stanley Memories.
Okay.
Page. Buzzer Cook.
Buzzer Cook.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I did want to bring up, and a huge thank you to Josh Cook for his fantastic fanzine, Raw Milk Volume 3. He actually allowed me to write an article about my experience of becoming an Accrington Stanley fan and the start of the North American Supporters Club. So please, if you are in the Accrington area, purchase a copy of that and take a look, because Josh just does such a great job of telling the story of every fan that comes to the Wham Stadium, and it just from the fans' perspective, it's such a fantastic read, and thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a very big honor to have had an article in your publication, Josh.
It's such a good mag as well. Like that's amazingly well put together, and it's only £1. Like, it's £1. How that works out, I don't know. But he does such a good job putting that thing together.
Yeah, I think there's one or two people behind him who are helping out with a little bit of sponsorship, and he does put a fantastic little publication out there. Like I said, it's third one. I've got one on my desk at the moment. Apart from having to look at you guys every time I open it, but
thank you for those pictures that you posted also of the magazine at the stadium. I got those, and the full unabridged 4,000 word version of the article can be found on our website. When I say 4,000 words, that's not even. I'm not so an exaggeration. It's actually about 4,300. Yeah.
Oh my God!
It's long. I think it's longer than my 50-year book.
It was one of those things that it was kind of written in my head over a 6-month period, and then I put pen to paper and it's kind of flowed out.
No, it's good. I posted it on the memories page, and there's been some good feedback already on it, Phil. So I think people appreciate, the time and effort you've spent on following Stanley and getting involved with all these initiatives. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I hadn't. We jumped right on and recorded, so I hadn't had a chance to respond to everybody yet. But it really was a good feeling to see the positive feedback, because when you write something personal like that, it's always a little bit more stressful than a match report, for instance.
Yeah.
Feeling that people seem to have connected with my story it's a really good feeling, and I love Accrington Stanley, and could not have picked a better English football team to be a part of. And from Andy on down, Andy, Peter Latham, all the way down to the groundskeeper Buzz. I mean, everybody it just makes the club and It's amazing. There's nothing comparable to Accrington Stanley over here in the U.S.
I think you're preaching to the choir here, mate. All right, guys, I think we need to wrap it up. It's been a wonderful chat this Sunday morning. I've got an Arsenal game to go and watch. Not that I really want to go and watch it, but I have to.
It's just gonna spoil your day, that, Aaron.
I think so. Yeah, no, it's not going to be fun. Darren, always a pleasure to talk to you, mate.
No, it's been great to speak to both of you guys. We'll have to do it again soon.
All right, sounds good to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for talking with us today, Darren, and thank you, Arran. I know it's early here on this side of the pond, and thank you, of course, to all of our listeners for joining us today, and have a great day.